We would love to recommend that everyone gets hold of a PS1 and experiences the good old days of gaming, but the second-hand market is just so darned expensive these days, and while emulation is a good alternative, it doesn't quite hit the same for everyone. However, our love for retro games doesn't mean that there aren't modern games worth celebrating too, as there have been plenty of new titles that have wonderfully championed the graphics and ideas of old school gaming. I'm Jimmy for Cultured Vultures, Enter Electro is still my favourite Spider-Man game ever, and these are some modern member berries you should snack on. This is just one of the easiest recommendations I could ever give, honestly. Making a horror game for modern platforms is a tough task, as there's plenty of excellent titles out there for you to choose from, but making a horror game that's decidedly old school and yet still just as compelling as more contemporary offerings is a downright miracle. That's why Signalis from 2022 was considered to be a genuine Game of the Year contender from a lot of outlets and most of the gamers who played it. Though the game's top-down 2.5D perspective is wholly unique, the overall aesthetic, combat and puzzle design is intentionally reminiscent of classic Resident Evil and Silent Hill games. The only real difference here is that Signalis takes place on an alien planet with a crashed spaceship. While we'd love to give you a rough outline of the plot of Signalis, this is truly one of those games where the less you know about the plot going in, the better. Also, we don't really understand it that well. Basically, you're trapped on an alien planet with mutated creatures wanting to kill you on sight. Good luck. The atmosphere and tone, visually striking low-res graphics and mind-bending storytelling on offer here put Signalis among the best horror games ever made. For real. Though it is worth mentioning that the game's combat won't be for everyone. Again, Signalis is very old school in its design choices, and part of that is making combat feel like a last-ditch solution instead of just shooting everything that moves, allowing the game to become one of the most tense horror experiences ever made. Check it out on PC, PS4, Xbox, and Switch. We don't really need to explain how boomer shooters have become one of the most successful throwback genres in gaming, and picking a favourite from the bunch is like picking your favourite child. It's you. Yeah, buddy. There are some, like Ultra Kill, which add a bunch of new ideas, movement mechanics, and tools to the formula, like the stupidly creative but still stupidly simple coin, and it's just brilliant. We have all the love in the world for Ultra Kill, even if trying to play the game into your 30s feels like you are about to ultra die from wrist pain. However, there are others, like Proteus, which add very little new to the genre. You simply go room by room, murdering demons and monsters until you reach the end of the level, unlocking new weapons as you progress through the game. It's just a non-stop, unashamed Doom clone, and it's absolutely incredible. Proteus is described by its own developers as a first-person shooter of old, reimagined using modern rendering techniques and technology, and it absolutely succeeds in providing just that. From the blocky weapons, characters and enemies, the classic search for keys level design, and the animations that feel like they're made using stop-motion animation, everything about Proteus screams 90s to early 2000s LAN party. There's even multiplayer and the chance to create your own maps, just to add to the early days of Doom online feeling, Eternal. For those who want the retro gameplay but with better graphics, Proteus gives players an incredible amount of choice in how they want the game to look, making it an easy game to recommend for a lot of people across PC, PS5, PS4, Xbox One and Series, and Switch. It's even on Mac for all 5 of you Maccers out there. Is anyone else looking forward to the Arceus? while most games, particularly horror, like to imitate the gameplay of titles from years gone by, a few actually want to retain those graphics. As a general rule, the more polygons you have, the weirder you can make the monsters you have to fight against, but Crow Country manages to do so much more with a lot less. Like Signalis, the gameplay of Crow Country is very heavily reminiscent of Resident Evil and Silent Hill, with those Silent Hill influences being more apparent thanks to the heavy fog and dilapidated ruins you'll be exploring throughout the game. However, the real PS1 comparison to make here is with Final Fantasy VII's graphics, with Crow Country managing to create an effective horror game using Final Fantasy VII's almost chibi-like 3D models. Players control an investigator by the name of Mara who has travelled to the titular Crow Country, which is an abandoned amusement park located near Atlanta. The founder of the park, Edward Crow, disappeared 2 years prior, and Mara took it upon herself to find out what happened to him. Along the way, she meets other investigators looking into what happened to Crow Country, only to find something creepy and disturbing that's turning people into bizarre zombie-esque mutants. That's not very amusing. Park. While the gameplay is clearly a loving homage to Resident Evil and Silent Hill, Crow Country at least lets you move and shoot at the same time. It won't be very accurate, mind you, but it's still a nice update to the formula you can enjoy on PC, PS5 and Xbox Series.
Easy left. Hard right.
Anyone who happened to be around during the original heyday of the PS1, first of all, why didn't you buy Z12 Final Resistance? We needed you. Secondly, you'll likely remember that the PS1 was filled to the brim with racing games, rally games in particular. While Sega Rally Championship and its sequel might have skipped the PS1 entirely due to PlayStation and Sega's then blood feud, they were two of the biggest rally games of all time at a certain point, and they helped spawn titles like Colin McRae Rally and V-Rally, both of which ended up on the PS1. Side note, have we said rally enough yet? While we struggle to think of a synonym for rally, I am pretty fond of Sega Mustard Championship because it sounds very Italiano. Frozen Lake Games has taken it upon themselves to resurrect this beloved era in racing and rally games in particular, with the very to-the-point titled game Old School Rally. While Old School Rally is currently in early access on Steam right now, it's already a pretty competent and exciting new take on a specific era of gaming. Players pick from one of several cars, each of which happens to look just enough like iconic and recognisable rally cars throughout history, but not enough that's actionable by lawyers before racing them around tracks throughout the world. Each car has its own quirks and challenges, while the tracks themselves range from snow, dirt and tarmac, which all require a different approach when cornering. Again, Old School Rally is an early access game that's just available on PC as things stand, but all the makings are there for a genuinely great rally experience. When talking about games that evoke PS1 nostalgia, we'd be remiss to not talk about a GTA clone of some kind. But the issue is that most GTA clones tend to clone from the era where the series blew the hell up in popularity, the 3D era. Trying to find a good top-down GTA clone is a bit trickier. There's Rustler, of course, which gave itself the nickname of Grand Theft Horse, but reviews for that game have been a bit hit or miss, so instead we're focusing on a GTA-style clone that boasts a more stylish setting, offers gameplay that's way more destructive, and even boasts a beautiful pixel art style that you can truly get nostalgic over. Of course, it's Shakedown Hawaii. If you played the previous game, Retro City Rampage, you know the kind of carnage you can expect here. A loving homage to both the PS1 GTA games along with 80s culture as a whole, Shakedown Hawaii tasks you with taking a failing business and turning it into a successful multinational conglomerate. That doesn't sound like a completely accurate GTA clone on the surface, but it's the methods you'll undertake to relaunch your empire that make it a pitch-perfect pastiche. Instead of attending seminars and working on your power poses, you'll take a flamethrower to the surrounding real estate, then buy the property at a severely reduced price. Talk about a hostile takeover, eh? With over 100 story missions, plenty of weapons, and more than enough silly humor throughout, Shakedown Hawaii is a great GTA clone for those longing for the halcyon days of the PS1 that you can play on basically everything, including the Wii, where it was the last physical game ever released for the platform.
Yeah! Like it.
For a while there, it felt like Suikoden fans were never going to experience a new game or remaster for their favourite iconic RPG series. Of course, Konami decided to prove everyone wrong with the announcement of the Suikoden 1 and 2 HD collection, which we're hoping they won't butcher in some way. However, even if Konami decided to leave Suikoden to rot on the PS1, fans of the series still would have been taken care of, as Eiyuden Chronicle 100 Heroes is considered to be a pretty worthy spiritual successor to the Suikoden franchise. Of course, it's not surprising that Eiyuden has that Suikoden charm, considering that Eiyuden's development was led by Suikoden creator Yoshitaka Murayama, who also directed the first 2 games. Funded by Kickstarter backers, becoming the 3rd most successful video game campaign behind Shenmue 3 and Bloodstained Ritual of the Night, Eiyuden Chronicle 100 Heroes' story is your classic PS1 RPG fare. Some evil empire is seeking more MacGuffins of power, and they're willing to do bad things in order to get it, and as a young knight, you're dragged kicking and screaming into the horrors of war. What makes Eiyuden a brilliant Suikoden clone is that the game is all about recruiting new party members to your cause, with over 100 playable characters that have their own traits, personalities, and skills. If you're looking for an old-fashioned RPG throwback, give Eiyuden Chronicle 100 Heroes a go on PC, PS4, PS5, Xbox One and Series, and Switch. They even made a prequel game to hype up the release of 100 Heroes titled Eiyuden Chronicle Rising, which is pretty good too. Gloomwood is a game that almost defies categorization in a lot of ways. It has elements borrowed from all over the retro gaming space, with the steampunk/gothic Victorian aesthetic looking like Dylan Rogers and David Szymanski had been big Nightmare Creatures fans back in the day. Meanwhile, the core gameplay feels like a mix of boomer shooters, especially Hexen because of its more gothic vibe, along with immersive sims such as Thief and Deus Ex. Oh, and it has the grid-based inventory system from System Shock 2, or perhaps more notably, Resident Evil 4. It's a hodgepodge of influences from across the world of retro gaming, but you take them home, throw them in a pot, add some broth and a cane sword, then baby, you got a stew going. Another game that's still in early access solely on PC for now, Gloomwood sticks you in the middle of a hostile Victorian cityscape and says good luck surviving. The entire city is free for you to explore as you try to uncover the mystery surrounding the entire town, with the game recommending that you stick to the shadows in order to accomplish your goals. A unique light and sound system govern how easy you are to detect by the many enemies within the city, but if you want to go loud, there's plenty of weapons to find lying around too. Or you could just pick up crates and start eating them as a last resort. That's what makes Gloomwood an immersive sim after all. It lets you do dumb shit with ordinary level props. Also props to the rest of New Blood Interactive's published work too, which asks the important question, what if everything was still really pointy? A video game trend that's emerged over recent years is the art of the demake, which is taking already established games and properties and imagining what they would have been like on older platforms. While some demakes are purely concept only, there have been plenty of indie developers over the years who have tried to put their concepts into action, with the most notable example probably being Bloodborne PSX. a fan game slash demake created by LW Media and based on From Software's incredible action RPG and the certified best PS4 game ever. By the way, the Bloodborne demake led to what would have been known as Bloodborne Kart before Sony decided to issue a cease and desist. Spoil sports. Still, LW Media just removed all Bloodborne references and released it for free as Nightmare Kart instead, and it is brilliant. While Nightmare Kart's character's aesthetic and world building obviously draws influence from Bloodborne, Nightmare Kart graphically calls to mind games like Nightmare Creatures, 2 shoutouts in one video. As for the gameplay, Nightmare Kart is probably most similar to Crash Team Racing, as players can utilise weapons and power-ups to dominate the racetrack. The campaign mode in particular even borrows from the Crash Team Racing formula as you complete races and unlock boss fights against some incredibly tough opponents. Perhaps the best part of Nightmare Kart though is the fact that it's completely free to play and not like, modern free to play, as in it's free and you just play it, which makes it easy to experience a different take on kart racing and horror. Plus, it's the closest you're getting to Bloodborne on PC at the minute, or hour, or day, or week, or month, or year, or ever. Make your peace with that now. While Capcom's Mega Man series made its debut before Sony created the PS1, there's definitely a case to be made that the PS1 has been Mega Man's best ever console. Whether it was the classic 2D platformers, alternatives like Mega Man Legends, or even spin-offs like The Adventures of Tron-Bonne, Mega Man was featured pretty heavily across the PlayStation 1. It stands to reason then that if you want to experience some classic PS1 nostalgia, you should play some Mega Man inspired games. Not Mighty No. 9 of course, people still haven't gotten over that one, but one Mega Man-like game that's been well received by critics and the general public alike is Azure Striker Gunvolt. Developed and published by Inti Creates, who also made a lot of the Mega Man games up until 10 and presumably the only good bits of Mighty No. 9, which were the end credits. Azure Striker Gunvolt bears the most important hallmark of being a Mega Man clone. The series has a different name in Japan, which is Armed Blue Gunvolt, much like how Mega Man is called Rockman. Beyond that though, Azure Striker Gunvolt is a 2D shoot-'em-up where players run, jump and dash through levels much like they would when playing Mega Man. While Azure Striker doesn't offer the ability to complete levels in a certain order to obtain weapons other bosses are weak to, it does include newer ideas such as item and equipment forging systems. With multiple games in the Azure Striker Gunvolt series, playing this series might help with the wait for the next official Mega Man release. Surely there's another collection Capcom can cobble together in the meantime, right?
Come at me! Show me what you're made of!
Plenty of critically acclaimed RPGs managed to find a very good home on the PS1, perhaps too much of a forever home, and while many point to the mainline Final Fantasy series as the prime example of just that, there's plenty of other RPGs worth sinking your teeth into. Sure, the one that we're referencing when talking about this last game also happens to be called Final Fantasy Tactics, but Tactics is certainly less appreciated by the general public than Final Fantasy VII. Still, for those who loved the challenge and difficulty of Final Fantasy Tactics and are looking for something new to enjoy, Triangle Strategy is a worthwhile contender. While some think the name sounds like a placeholder, the developer has spoken about the significance of Triangle Strategy's name, and how it references the 3 different angles, but I don't know, any other name might have been better. Drop your suggestions below. I've got Turny Gritty Stabby Jabby. Actually, this is quite hard, isn't it? Regardless, it's the game itself and not the name that's worthy of your attention. Like most tactical RPGs, Triangle Strategy depicts a continent on the brink of war, with players controlling protagonist Serenoa Wolffort as they find themselves playing Piggy in the middle between the warring factions of Glenbrook, Ace Frost and High Zante. Players will gather their party to take on battles via turn-based combat on grid-based playing fields, with positioning and objects in the environment playing a huge role in the outcome. However, it's your actions off the battlefield that prove to be just as important as how you perform in the thick of it, as Triangle Strategy also employs branching paths and 4 unique endings depending on the choices you've made. Triangle strategy is about as meaty as RPGs get, so if you want a beautiful PS1 throwback that boasts the incredible HD 2D visuals that Octopath Traveler became known for, this is worth checking out on PC and Switch. Outro gang, I enjoyed this a lot. If you enjoyed looking at some modern PS1 ass games that aren't on PS1, because they don't make those games anymore, god I'm so good at this, please drop a comment down below and we do more. This is just a nice gateway into me talking about some cool indie games. I love doing that and they won't get a lot of views, but this is a nice little hopeful way of doing that. I've been Jimmy for Cultured Vultures, it's been good to have you and thank you for watching.